Welcome back to Face the State on this Sunday morning. It's a race that captured national attention. Former National Teacher of the Year Jahana Hayes was a surprise victor on election night. She will face former Meriden Mayor Manny Santos. And Mrs. Hayes is with us here today. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Your smile said it all that night. But were there times at that night you didn't think you were going to win?
You know, it's interesting because on election day, I think I was focused less on winning and making sure people turned out to vote. My campaign was illustrated by educating voters. You know, I did civics chats. I tried to teach people what their rights as voters were. You know, and we had a lot of challenges where people were getting turned away from the polls. They didn't have IDs. And what I did not want to happen was for people to disengage. So I was excited by the numbers, but again, I had no idea what those numbers meant because I was tapping into a group that you couldn't poll. So.
How did you get the word that you'd won? Who told you?
Actually, I got a call from Mary Glassman.
That's how you found out?
Yes, because it hadn't been, I was watching the news feed and kind of looking at the numbers. I was in a hotel room, had just come in from Danbury, was in the rain, thought I'd had a couple hours just to settle down, and they hadn't even declared it on the TV that I was watching, and I got a call from Mary.
What did she say to you?
She was very gracious. She congratulated me. She offered herself to help in any way. Told me it was a great race, and I mean, it was a quick conversation, but she definitely offered her full-throated support.
Do you see yourself as a historic figure at all?
I hope so. I hope so, because we are on the forefront of some difficult things that are happening in our country. But I actually know as a history teacher that that's usually when we're at our best. So if I can be a part of what is about to happen, you know, the possibility of who we are about to become, history has taught us that those are the most amazing times for this country. So I hope I can be a part of that.
You were probably a little girl when, in 1990, when Gary Franks was elected.
Yes.
He was the first black member of Congress to represent Connecticut in Washington. Do you remember that at all?
I remember it very well. It was a big deal. It was kind of a big deal in Waterbury. So, you know, people talked about it. People were very excited and enthusiastic about it. So, yeah, I remember.
Did your family vote for him? I know he's a Republican, but...
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it was weird because my family, I grew up in a household where democratic values were important. You know, we were strong Democrats. My grandmother cherished the right to vote. You know, it was very important to her. So, but I don't know. I never asked her that. I didn't really think about it then.
Interesting. Good question for this weekend.
I guess so.
Let's talk about this race. You're going up against a conservative Republican, Manny Santos, the former mayor of Meriden. He says Donald Trump has been good for the 5th District. And some will argue that Donald Trump is fairly popular in the 5th. He carried a lot of towns there. So how do you navigate that this fall?
Donald Trump has not been good to me. You know, and when we talk about things that have happened in the 5th District, we have to think of all the people in this district. And there are, you know, people talk about the economy is doing well. It's not doing well for everyone, you know, and I think more importantly, people talk a lot about, you know, dollars and cents and money, and government should work for people, you know, and there are so many people in this district who are fearful of some of the policies that are coming out of this administration. That's not good for the 5th District.
But when you go to certain towns in the 5th District where the unemployment rate is low, they're going to say, well, things are good. Why would I go with the Democrats?
Well, it's not just the unemployment rate. You know, I think I have a message that resonates across the district. You know, on some things, again, I'm very progressive. On other things, a little bit more moderate. But we have to make an investment in education. We have to make sure that, you know, healthcare, that the healthcare system is fixed, that our immigration system is a robust system with multiple pathways, that our seniors and our veterans, you know, get the care they deserve. That is not something that really falls into that nice bucket about the economy is doing well, you know, or the unemployment rate is low. We have to make sure that government works for all people from all communities.
On the flip side, the unemployment rate is very high in Waterbury. It's the highest in the state, I believe, 7%. The state rate is 4.5% or something like that. What do you say to the people in Waterbury who are looking for a change from perhaps Democrats and Elizabeth Esty?
Well, I think that that's a very singular way to look at it. Although the unemployment rate is higher, there are so many families that are still living below the poverty level. So, what are these families getting paid? They may be working, but do they have a decent livable wage? Do they have access to the same opportunities? Do they have safe and affordable housing? So all of those things have to be included in the conversation and incorporated into what a government looks like.
You'll be part of if you're elected, you'll be part of the delegation that some of the fellow Democrats were working for Mary Glassman, John Larson, Rosa DeLauro. They were all trying to help her get elected. How does that make you feel? And I'm sure politicians call up the next day and say, "Oh, we love you," but this is what happened.
Well, they're Democrats, so now I know they'll help me. The nice thing about this system, everybody gets one vote. And I think that this campaign, this primary cycle, was healthy. It's what it should look like. People should put their name in, put their ideas out there. I recognize that I was, this was a long shot. People really didn't know. They hadn't had the opportunity to be around me. My opponent was someone they were a little bit more comfortable with, and I get it. I hold no grudges, and I think now we come together to unify the party to make sure that we are working towards problem solving, to creating solutions, to speaking on behalf of the 5th District. I think that after Tuesday night, it's very clear that, there is something about me or my campaign or what I represent that resonated with Democrats in this district, and I don't think our delegation would ignore that.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the issues you'll be facing if you indeed go to Washington. What is your view on immigration? What kind of policy should the United States have?
Well, I think that we should have a policy that is respectful of human civility and dignity. I recognize that we have to secure our borders. I don't think any Democrat is saying that we should have free and open borders. But we have to have a system, a robust system that has multiple pathways to citizenship, where people are not, waiting in queue for decades for their paperwork to be heard, becoming parts of marginalized communities where they can be exploited because they know that, they don't have all the information they need. I have had students, families, people in my community who are active participants, who invest in their communities and have lived in this country. And the system is very complicated. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be organized in a way where people can submit paperwork. It can be heard and, based on the needs. We have so many people who are asylum seekers that come here. All of those things should be part of the conversation, and people should expect that this can happen and not wait 30 years.
Because as you know, there are people who do come in here legally, and they say, why should it be any different for someone who's came here illegally?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But we have to create a pathway for all people who want to come here to come in here, to come legally. I always think about when you have families that are migrating to this country, especially now, everybody around the world is aware of the climate and the culture as it pertains to immigrants right now. So if someone is still willing to take that chance to bring their children on a trek to our border where they know they may not be welcome and maybe jailed or separated or whatever, the situation in their country has to be 10 times worse. Nobody leaves an ideal situation, risks their life and the lives of their children. And let's face it, we are a nation of immigrants. I don't know when we got away from that. So we have to create multiple pathways for people to come here legally.
What is on your list of goals to accomplish if you should go to Washington?
Well, lots of things. I follow, in Congress, you see 500 plus bills that make it to the floor. So many different things that happen. And obviously, I would have to be a part of all of those conversations. And, if I was the representative that went to Congress from Connecticut, education is near and dear to my heart. It has to be an investment. One of the things I learned as National Teacher of the Year is that I traveled 40 plus states and was in the room as part of conversations surrounding the future of education, education policy. And oftentimes I was the only teacher in the room. So, teachers have to take the weight and are responsible for all of these expectations in education, yet we're not really a part of the decision making. Our concerns are not engaged in the conversation. We're not asked, what does this look like by the time it gets to you? So I have some really good information in that area. I think we talk a lot about jobs and the economy. I think part of that is job training, career training, making sure that we have the talent pool to meet the needs of the next generation workforce. I think energy and clean energy, I think Connecticut should take that as an opportunity for for what the future of our economy looks like and create, multiple jobs, be the leader on that. We have the highest energy rates. We really could do some good work in this state. Medicare, we have to figure this out. We cannot walk away from the table. We cannot break all this down.
Jahana Hayes, she is the Democratic nominee for Congress in the 5th District. We thank you for being on the program today, Mrs. Hayes. And of course, we plan on having a CT5 debate. We hope you'll be there.
Oh, I'm the Democratic nominee, so of course I'll be there.
I wish everyone felt that way, right?
Yes.
All right, thanks for being on the program and congrats again.
Thank you.
In a moment, our flashback. The last time there was a battle to replace an unpopular governor. Do you remember what happened? And we welcome your comments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'll be right back.